And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast. Along with my partners, Brian Siegler, Jonathan Talley, and Shelton Moss, I am Curtis Wilson. And this episode is brought to you by the Main Street Pharmacy and Dr. Jeremy Counts in Blacksburg, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy, 301 South Main Street, Blacksburg, Virginia. Good to see all four of you three of you boys tonight. How's everybody doing on a Tuesday in March?
Well,
Man. I thought you were gonna say tired, Sheldon. Yeah. Sheldon got worked over the weekend, y'all.
Yeah, I'm doing fine though, and good news is I'll get to be in Tampa this weekend, so I'll be basking in the sunshine of that warm Florida air. So I can't complain too much, man. I've been enjoying life.
No complaints. Look out for Florida, man.
Look out for Florida, man. Hey, you might be on the safe side there. Tally, what you been up to, man?
Did y'all tell him to look out for Florida man, or did you tell him to look out for Florida men?
Florida man. Florida man.
Very different context there.
Totally different context. I was trying to make sure I didn't need to be.
I mean, maybe all of the above. You know, who knows?
Yeah, I'm kind of close to Florida. I was trying to see what was going on. I'll be out of the loop sometimes. Doing good, man. Doing good. Somebody asked me for a weekly update of my son. He is doing well. He started PT last week. Couldn't do much PT because he's still in his boot, but physical therapist stretched him out a little bit. From what he's told me, he goes back to the doctor on the 20th or the 25th of this month, and they'll decide whether he comes out of his boot and can start kind of resuming activities. So he says that once he's released from the boot, he thinks that he'll probably only have to see him for probably 3 weeks, and he should be good to go. Said everything looks strong. Everything looks like it's going the way it's supposed to go. Told him just don't do nothing stupid. Don't walk without the boot until they tell you. And just to let everybody know, no, this is not a Clemson hat. This is my son and daughter's high school. It is Grissom High School. So that is a G, not a C. Just want to let you know, just in case somebody had to ask.
That's old English G right there. That's a dope looking hat.
Tally said, "I'm getting ahead of the charges."
Let me get ahead, man. Let me go ahead and get this out of here.
I like that look, man. The high school my kids will eventually attend starts with a G. That's a sick looking little hat right there, man.
They used to do they're the Grissom Tigers. So they used to do a hat that looked very similar to Clemson's hat. Man. It was just a tiger paw. And when the new coaches came in, it was like, we need to get away from this.
There you go. Good
job.
So
they started changing some stuff up. It looks much better. I like the new stuff that they have.
Nice. All right. Well, we got a bunch to unload tonight. We have not one but two guests later on joining us. Matej Sis from 247. We're going to be talking everything recruiting. And in just a little while here, Tally, I don't have Hunter's last name, so I can't give him that credit. Hunter.
He probably don't. I don't even know if he wants people to know it.
Well, Hunter is
Joe Rogers. That's all we know him about. I don't even know if he has a last name.
He does of some type. But Hunter is a huge wrestling aficionado, keeps very big tabs on the program. We've got some questions for him as we head into ACC Tournament week with just a few weeks away from the national final. So we're going to get with him first. He's going to be joining us momentarily here. But let's start it off with some hoops, boys. And I didn't get to see it. I got texted a few times. Mm-hmm. Why we go on the road and blow out somebody?
We don't have the worst team in the ACC.
Because it was Louisville.
Bingo.
Don't get too excited.
Notre Dame ain't much better than them, and we couldn't go beat their asses. Brian, go on. Like I don't even. I'm just gonna drink while we talk about men.
I'll let Shelton ride on this one.
Look, I know it's always good to get a win. You never take an ACC road win for granted, but man, oh man, Louisville's bad. Like this is like the equivalent of being like a bad mid-major team. I mean, they are just like they are 195th in KenPom. And to put in perspective how bad Kenny Payne has been, that's actually like a 100 spot improvement from what they were last year. So this is it's a bad team, and I could go into a tangent about how what a disastrous coaching job this is. But nonetheless, Hokies, I thought they moved the ball really well. They hit threes, had a lot of open threes. They knocked them down, shot 45% from three, 48% overall. And I thought that they just played like they were the better team. And looking at the stats, out-rebounded them by 3, had 4 more assists. and 10 steals. That's a big one. I'm not sure if that's a season high, but I bet it's certainly close. So, obviously a good game. Not going to make too much of it, but good to finally take care of an inferior opponent like they should have.
Finally get just the second road ACC win for the Hokies this season.
Yep, second road win. And I was looking at the numbers earlier this week. I think Tech has something like the third worst ACC road record of the past couple seasons, and one of the worst in Power 5. So I just don't know what the solution there is. I don't know what's causing it, but they just can't play well on the road. But I'm glad that wasn't the case tonight.
Tally, anything to add? Or you've been looking down the whole time. Tally said he threw away the men's team a few weeks ago. He's done with them.
No, I threw away a lot of basketball for a while. The Lakers too. I wasn't watching them either.
The Lakers are trying to do a little something. So
they always wait until they get in a pinch, and then they want to try to fight out of it. And hey, let's try to make the playoffs and get everybody's hopes up. So at
least we only 3 games out of the 5th seed. So at least we got it ain't that much ground to make up.
Right. So with the Hokies game tonight, they had 5 people in double figures. So I mean that's pretty positive, I can say. To go on the road and you got 5 people in double figures. But I guess I want to ask Sheldon, what happened to Louisville, man? Louisville basketball used to be top tier or close to it. What is wrong?
I mean, Kenny Payne happened. That's pretty much the simplest answer. I in fact, I was looking the second you said that. I'm looking at you right now. This is from a Rivals guy, I think, from Louisville Tide Spotting. He said a quote from an ACC coach that played Louisville this year: "They're the worst coach team we've ever seen. We watched their shell drill. We watched their shell drill before the game, and even that was terrible." So I don't know. I mean, they when you watch them play. I mean, you can tell they're just they don't know how to pass the ball. They don't know angles. They can't really get into their offense because they just don't know how to set it up properly. They're helping off shooters in the strong side of the court. It's just bad basketball. So I don't know. As far as how he's been so bad, I don't know. But it's a disastrous coaching job. I would say probably. I mean, one of the worst coaching jobs we've seen in college sports, because Louisville is a top 15 program with national championships in the last 20 or so years, and they are now the equivalent of a crappy mid-major team for the last 2 seasons. It's just been mind-boggling.
And they put so much money into that program too. It's insane how much money goes into that program. There's no excuse for them being that awful, whether it comes down to the Kenny Payne hire or anything else. From an infrastructure standpoint, there's no excuse for them to be that bad.
None.
Yeah, I've heard some mixed things about their overall athletic department health, but I would agree with you. Generally speaking, that's a big time brand, and there's no excuse to be that bad.
Well, I hear you talking, Shelton. They can't pass. They can't set up plays. Listen, I had a 10-year-old playing a 11-year-old playing a 10, 11-year-old this year. And the first 6 games were brutal because they didn't know how to pass. They're 10 years old, and you're telling me these guys are collegiate athletes, they don't know how to pass? That's problems right there. Probably something, I mean, I'm assuming, Shelton, in your opinion, this isn't going to be a 1-year fix?
I would say no. I mean, obviously they'll get rid of him at the end of the year, but even with the portal, I mean, it would probably take 2 classes. I think basketball is a sport where it's easier to rebuild on the fly. So if you hire a good coach who can bring his players in, that makes it a little bit easier. But still, it's probably going to be one rebuilding year, and then maybe the second year they can get it turned around. But yeah, they're in a really, really deep spot.
All righty. Well, let's flip over now to what was the good feel story for Hokies this winter, and that was the women's, because they went on the unbelievable 10-game win streak, get to number 5 in the country after beating UNC. Took back-to-back losses. The Notre Dame loss is fine. Notre Dame's a top 15 team. You went to their house. You took one, is what it is.
The freshman that guy's really good.
She is really good.
Yeah,
I do not know her name, but she is really good. Hidalgo. Thank you, Sheldon.
Hannah Hidalgo. Yeah, she is a dog.
All right.
Yes.
But then clearly everybody saw Sunday what happened with the loss to UVA and the injury to Liz Kitley. I think we've all seen knee injuries. I mean, we're all, Sheldon, you're the youngest of us here, but you've watched a lot of sports in your life. And until you hear it's good, I'm assuming the worst. I don't know. I don't know if y'all feel any other way, but I'm assuming the worst, and I hate it because if this team doesn't get put in South Carolina's bracket with Liz Kitley, this team can go to final. This team can go to the Final Four again. I'll try to be a little positive there. So, I mean, y'all say something because I don't know because it hurts. It hurts. It's somebody said it's the story of the Hokies. Always.
You don't even want to think about that. You know what I'm saying? You don't even want to think about like all of the, somebody said, you know, Hokies being cursed and things. Like I try not to even think about that because I think about like it has nothing to do with us. You know what I mean? It's all to do with this young lady, the work that she's put in. She's going to the WNBA. She's out there doing what she's great at doing. She's out there doing what she loves, and she goes down. You know what I'm saying? Like I just feel for her and her family, and I know it's not a death sentence, you know what I'm saying, as far as her being hurt. But at the same time, like she just won ACC Player of the Year, right? For the third straight time.
Third time.
You know, and if that's the last time that she gets to suit up and she has to go out like that just that's horrible for her. You know, that's how she goes out. But I will say it was very, very non-contact. It wasn't like she came down and twisted on somebody's foot. Like she came down kind of on her own and that knee buckled. And I mean, looking at somebody that's had knee problems and knee surgeries, it just didn't look good. So prayers for her and her family, man. I hope that everything, you know, she can bounce back, even if that is it. You know, I hope she's, you know, she can bounce back and keep moving forward with that.
You hate for someone who is, you know, in the same conversation as far as impact in their individual sport as Michael Vick to go out in this fashion. Like, so yeah. For me, like, I know we don't know anything yet. I think with Curtis, I think we're kind of thinking it's going to be the worst, but
yeah.
You know, there's still that hope in there that she gets to come back and kind of finish this thing out, this ride out on her own terms in some way, shape, or form. So, because
real question,
next level talent.
Yeah.
Real question now. If that's the last time that we see Liz in a Virginia Tech jersey, does that jersey get retired?
It better. Ooh. It should have already been. I mean, if we're being honest, I mean, it should have went up the last home game in Castle, in my opinion.
All right. You heard what Brian had to say. Sheldon, you got anything to add on that?
Sheldon, can I ask you this question just because you're analytical and you think about this shit, man? She's not on the team. How far can they go? How far are they? How good of it? Listen, but Sheldon thinks that way, man. So Sheldon can give us a good feel on it.
Obviously, a lot of it depends on seeding. You know, if you're a 4 seed, you got to play the 5 in the round of 32. That's gonna be difficult, but I still think they could get to the Sweet 16 without her. Realistically, that's probably the ceiling. I think, just because, I mean, again, it depends on what seed. If they get a 2 seed, if they seek them to 2 seed, okay, that's a lot better. If it's a 4, which I think could happen, depending on if they say they lose in the first round or the semifinals, like that could happen, and the committee's like, oh well, we don't know if she's healthy. That's gonna make it a lot more difficult. But I still think they could, with the talent they have, they could still get to the Sweet 16. But that'd probably be the ceiling without her, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was, best case scenario, if it's like an MCL sprain or something, if they can get out of the first weekend, she might have a chance to get back on the floor and see what that knee can do and kind of go from there. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think getting out of that first weekend is probably the ceiling without her. A lot of it, like you said, is going to depend on seeding, especially that kind of first round game.
Well, the sad part about it, as I'm looking down here on my phone, the sad part about it was the way her and Strack were starting to play. They were gelling together. And you think about, those are what, Liz is 6'6", Strack's what, 6'4.5"? She's not small by any means. Claire Strack is. That there would not be many teams in the tournament when that set went out there that could have anywhere near the size. Near the size. I know South Carolina is a physical team. I don't think they have that size like that. So that's what sucks because we started seeing them play more and more together over the past few weeks. And it's like, man, you get them on the floor together. Like, what can you do? Because if they play double, you play that double post game, it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to double both of them and leave King and you're going to leave him more wide open? You ain't going to do that. It just sucks because I think we all felt throughout this season this was a legitimate national championship contender with the way the team was composed. And in the last 6 weeks, we felt even better about it because when they had that 10-game win streak, beating good competition, winning away games, winning at sites where it is a little tough to play, it's like if that catches right at the right time, because the losses don't hurt. Because there's a lot of times you see, like, let's get the losses out of the system. Let's get that feeling. Brian, you and Tally play. Let's get that feeling of losing a game under our skin. So when we get in that game and it's 50-50 going into the fourth quarter, we don't want to lose this game. You know how I felt after Notre Dame and UVA? Screw that. We don't want that shit. We don't want that.
Right. Yeah, you want to get it out. You want to get those out before the tournament because when it comes to tournament time, that's when to go home. So, I ain't saying the games don't count, but, in that situation, you'd already secured the regular season ACC championship and, you already got your double bye. You want to get if you're going to lose, that's the best time to lose is there.
All righty. What is the wrestling man looking like, man?
So it should be hopping on here in just a second. Said he's hopping on now.
Good deal.
Awesome.
Good
Perfect
deal.
timing. By the way, just want everybody to look at my cool glass here. Y'all see this?
I see what you got there.
Yeah.
You see that? Y'all see that? That is effectively a map of campus my wonderful wife gave me for Valentine's Day. And it's funny, I look on here, you can't find Lane Stadium anywhere, but you can find the Stadium Woods. You can find Merriman. So I'm wondering, do you have to buy the rights to Lane to put it on your cool glass? By the way, small batch Evan Williams right here, if y'all wondering what's in it.
Hey, that's a good Tuesday. You got a nice cup. You getting some brownie points because you plugging your wife. Pause.
My wife, hey, wait a second. My wife also went out to dinner with some colleagues of hers tonight, so I could put the littlest one down and the middle one down before she got home.
Hey, you're doing good. You're doing real good. I'm gonna also plug something, but this ain't got nothing. Well, this right here, anybody who has kids that play basketball and you get on TikTok, this is a silent basketball.
Shut up.
Yes.
No,
this is what you want.
Bounce it on your desk there. I need to see it.
Hardly no noise.
Silent.
That's on the floor.
That ain't much noise.
That's on the floor. You got hardly no noise from this thing. So right. I'm telling you, if you got kids.
I do. I'd like one because mine loves to bouncing in the basement all the time.
Man, it was like, I don't know, maybe $15.
$15.
I would take a look at silent basketball.
Silent basket. I'll take it because you go to the YMCA, and man, oh god, that gets your head going right there. That gets your head going right there. It ain't even a joke.
Yep.
Fun.
Yeah, I got the hoop in the court there, so that's usually where I stay. So a little extra sound from the ball don't really hurt nobody out there.
Well, mine likes down in the basement. You've seen the setup here at the house, Brian. We got a full court, so and it don't matter up there. But he likes. Hey, listen, I saw my son grow as a player this year. He had a lot of fun playing basketball, and kid knows what to do with the basketball. And yeah, all righty. Let's roll this man on. Ladies and gentlemen, we got our wrestling expert tonight, Joe Hunter Rogers. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, fellas. How y'all doing tonight?
Good, man. Good. You been getting any sleep?
Zero sleep, man. I just made another baby run to the pharmacy. Had to get formula.
All right. Fun. You got 3 dads here, Joe. I got 3. Tally got 2. Brian got 1. Here's a rule. When that baby sleeps, you sleep. I don't care if it's 3 in the afternoon. I don't care if it's 5 in the morning. That thing decides to zonk out, just say, fuck the bullshit. I'm going to bed right now.
I'm getting at least a half hour in, man.
Exactly.
Give me something.
Get the sleep in when you
that
can.
Power nap.
I'm learning. I'm new at this.
Well, just listen. It takes a village, and I'm sure you got friends and family give you all the advice that they can, man. And trust me, it ain't no better feeling than it. I tell you that much right now. Again, father 3 here. All right, well, let's get into it, man, because we know how big of a Hokie wrestling fan you are, and we got a lot of questions we want to ask you. And Tally just went off camera. We lost him, Jesus Christ. All right, but I'm going to start this one out. Sheldon, Brian, and Tally going to throw some questions in here. So 2024 season expectations. I mean, for this team, it was pretty high. Great finish last year in 2023. A lot of guys coming back. Team's currently ranked 13th in a lot of the polls, 9-4 record overall. In your opinion, has this team overachieved, underachieved, or from your expectations, achieved about where they should?
I'm going to say with the circumstances about where they should. Sometimes it's been a little underachieving. We've had some injury issues. 125, the plan was for Eddie Ventresca. I mean, he's a returning All-American. The plan was for him to come back, give Cooper Flynn, who's ranked 4th in the nation, but give him his Olympic red shirt, and then let him develop so that way one of them's going to end up going up to 133 at some point eventually. So Eddie gets hurt early in the year. He's never looked right. Lost some matches to guys that normally wouldn't. They had to pull Cooper Flynn's red shirt, bring him back after he wrestled a tournament over in Croatia, and throw him into the lineup. It's a different style of wrestling as well. Olympic wrestling. It's mostly freestyle is what Cooper Flynn was doing. So we've had a couple of those circumstances where it's like, man, I really can't put that, on my original expectations for the year.
Yeah.
141, they had kind of planned on redshirting Tom Crook as well. That didn't work out either. Matt Church, a couple of the other guys, Hunter Mason, they tried to step in and didn't work. We had to pull another red shirt there. And then if you go to 157, Bryce Andonian, like the most electric guy in the country. He's been hurt all year for the second year in a row. So you get to that point, that's 3 out of 10 weight classes. That's 30% of your roster that you've had issues with injuries and circumstances that you can't control. So I think they've bounced back. I think they've hung in there. They've responded.
Nice. Thanks for the explaining with the Cooper Flynn thing, because I remember, Eddie, from last year when I looked up Cooper being 4, it was just like, wait a second, Cooper's a young guy. That's impressive for him. But again, you follow it closer than we do. That's why we love having you on. Brian, Shelton, y'all got anything? Anybody want to jump in for the next one here?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me, we know about Bakai, we know about Caleb. Let's kind of take them out of the conversation. What are some other guys that have kind of wowed you this year?
Ooh, there's a few. I mean, one of them, it's TJ Stewart at 184. I mean, even if you look at the 184 weight class, it took kind of that first semester to get TJ right. He redshirted last year. But it's TJ Stewart. He is Mekhi Lewis-esque at 184. And he is so electric. You just saw he beat a top 10 ranked guy back-to-back matches. And it's so hard. Wrestling is so hard to beat somebody that's somewhat level with you twice in a row, much less beat him like you did. Beat him back-to-back. Beat him in his home place at NC State. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So TJ Stewart, he's real impressive. Another one that they were kind of looking at too, from what I understand, is Sammy Sasso at 197. He's got a few flashes, but he hasn't got the starting job yet. It's probably going to be a next year thing. And then Hippolito, he is a judo wizard. He's big on the throws. He's filled in at 65. He's filled in at 57. So that's another guy that I think is eventually down the road going to be really electric for us. He's going to be another Andonian almost.
Can I ask this? I don't have this on here, but when you're mentioning some of these guys filling in, what does that make you feel like is the program where there's guys filling in that are winning matches, that are carrying the torch on? Does that say we're getting to the next echelon of a wrestling program?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. You see Penn State do that. It's, you start stacking depth that way, just like football. Brian played football. He understands playing college ball. Same thing at the college level. You start stacking depth. And it's really hard to do in wrestling because you only get 9 scholarships for 10 slots. So you're really relying on now NIL, but the SERTC as well. And Tony Roby's done a really good job of developing that so we can get other guys money. One of the problems, though, that we have in Virginia is our laws are different. So NC State has a huge advantage because out-of-state athletes can get in-state tuition there. So they're paying half or maybe a third in their instance for scholarship money so they can get guys more bang for their buck. So we're also fighting that battle being in Virginia. Aaron Rouse, if you're listening, please change that for us.
You know what? It was getting kind of, there was some motion in the Senate, in the House there, and it's kind of stalled. I haven't heard a whole lot from it in the last 6 to 8 months, but there was a big push, I think, about a year ago or a little over a year ago that to get that moving. But it's kind of, it's been a hang up. I know it's probably not a priority, especially, in an election year and all this bullshit, but
that's why it's so hard to stack depth in wrestling. There's only a few schools that can really do it. And it's like your top 4, like Ohio State, they can do it, but they're not elite at it. They're here and there. Penn State, they're number 1. They have been for a long time. And they've got some injuries. I'll talk about that in a minute. And that's why this helps them. But Penn State, obviously, you'll see them get the number 1 recruit, and they're able to just stack him right underneath the starter, which most places that guy's not going to go and sit. He's going to want to go start. And then Iowa, that's your other big one. You're going to see guys. Iowa has crazy money for their wrestling program. It's absurd.
Wow.
That was that, always will.
I mean that takes it though. Iowa has been good. I'm 40. To me, I can still remember as a kid, Iowa's been good for 30, 40, close to 50 years. Is a great program, so that happens. Years. Let me ask this, because you mentioned Bryce Adonia a little while ago with the injury. And has anyone else taken step backs this year in your eyes? And when that happens in wrestling, why? Brian's talked about football, that sometimes it's just guys growing, developing. They don't go as fast. Is that the same in wrestling, or is it different things?
Absolutely. And I think part of it's wrestling's such a mental sport. So when your body grows as well, if you start getting to where you have a really hard weight cut, it drains you. And then you might be okay. You might think your body's right and it's not. So it's really hard to find that balance. So that development with wrestling, it's kind of like football, but the way I like to say it is think about when you tear your ACL. It's really hard to bounce back and get to the level that you're at. So when you have a setback, it's a mental thing. It's mentally being ready, being able to get back out on the mat and get back to that level. You're fighting yourself as much as you are wrestling the other guy.
So who's done it this year? Who has taken that step back? Who is, I won't say disappointed you, but they've got to get over that hurdle at least next year, because what you mentioned earlier about we're filling back depth where if you're not good enough next year, you're not going to be the guy in that weight class.
Yeah. We've had a couple guys. Andy Smith, he took a step back. He actually laid out a really bad performance against NC State. He ended up getting tech fouled, gave a bunch of bonus points, which is critical in a tight duel like that. Andy Smith, he took a step back. We didn't think that was going to happen. And then another guy is Hunter Katka. We saw Jimmy Mullins actually wrestle at NC State. He does football and wrestling. He's going to have to make a choice at one point. I think Tony Roby's actually said that. But so he's got a guy on his heels, and Hunter Katka is kind of that guy he was such a big name recruit, kind of like Connor Brady too. He's kind of hit a wall at 165. He's plateaued and never been able to get over that. They kept thinking when he came in, this guy can develop, he'll be really good. Never really been able to get over that wall. So you got those 3 guys, and Brady, he's got Hippolito now pushing him for his spot as well. But Katka's one that's it's kind of disappointing in a way, because he was such a big recruit that we thought we had finally got heavyweight figured out, because we had a long period where that was a really weak spot for us. So we recruited hard. And now we got Mullins, that we got another guy in the works as well with him behind Katka. And those are our 3 spots where guys have kind of not got to that next step that we thought they would. But we're fortunate enough that the staff's done well. They've put a good game plan in to try and make a run and get us at that next level. That we got guys that are young guys, freshmen, true freshmen, that are coming for their spots now, right on their heels.
Nice. Sheldon, I know you got one you want to ask here.
Yeah, well, I had to ask about the man, the myth, the legend, Matej Sis. Obviously, we know he's one of the best in the country at his weight class. How impressive has he been this year, and what do you think are the odds are that he can win that second national title that's eluded him for a few years now?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because his odds just shot up. A kid from Penn State that seems to be his arch nemesis and have his number, Carter Storocci. He might have just torn his ACL.
Ooh.
They had senior night at Penn State. He was going for the pin. He could have tech followed the kid from Rutgers easily. Tried to get cute, went for the pin, got stuck in a funky little roll. His knee got caught up under him. And it looks like he's going to weigh in and forfeit at the Big Ten tournament. Rochi's ranked number one. He's out. Most likely he is out. Everybody else that's in the weight class, Matej Sis is beat. So his odds just shot up. But as far as impressive goes, Matej's incredibly impressive. He's only been taken down 6 times in his entire career. That is pretty much unheard of.
Yeah,
of those 6 times, pretty much all been the same guy, and now he's gone. But I think one of the challenges
I don't like nobody being hurt, but I mean, if you keep losing to the same guy and you ain't got to fight him, I guess that's pretty good.
Makes your life a lot easier.
Makes your life a little bit easier.
The second title eluding him, I think some of that was going up a weight class. The title he won was at 165, and then he decided to go up to 174. I think it kind of takes a little bit for your body to grow in to 9 more pounds of mass, with cutting and figuring out that speed and strength combination, because he was incredibly strong at 165. So if anybody's got a shot, he's the guy. I really want him to get it. He's probably the best wrestler to ever come through Virginia Tech, and he deserves it.
100%.
Wow, that's what's up. Caleb Henson, let's talk about him a little bit. Caleb's freshman year was pretty impressive. He took 5th at nationals this year. He's been even better. He's only has 1 loss to a top guy. And I guess the question I'm gonna ask you is, can he overcome that loss in the nationals and get revenge for a title?
Absolutely, and his chances also just got better. Penn State, their 149 is also now out for the year. It's already official. He's done. The one kid to beat him, Ridge Lovett, just slipped up and lost to Parco from Arizona State. So it looks like Caleb Henson will get that 1 seed. He has an easier path to the finals because that'll put Parco and Lovett at 2 and 3. So they'll meet in the semis on the opposite side of the bracket from him. That takes a lot out of you when you have a tight match to get to the finals like that. So I like Caleb Henson's chances a lot.
That's man. So Joe's telling us here that it's not only one guy that has a potential chance at a national title, but 2 guys. And I know our buddy Dave Fuqua, who helped us with lesson last year, it's like that's when you get into that territory of winning a national title.
Yes.
Brian, I think you got something because we mentioned Joe earlier. We know it's a big weekend. It's ACC Tournament weekend. What you got, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, ACC championships, NC State's kind of been that rival, that top dog that we got our, circled on the calendar there. What are the chances that the Hokies have to go out there and have themselves a little bit of a weekend in the ACCs?
I mean, you've always got that chance, and I think it's kind of interesting. Everybody sees NC State, they win the ACC tournament, and they're like, oh, why can't we do that? But if you look at the national tournament standings, like the last 10 years, they've only finished ahead of us once.
Yeah.
We always finish ahead of them at nationals. And the reason for that is the ACC has such a small wrestling conference. It's only 6 teams, so you don't get much of a gap. And the problem with that is where NC State wins championships in the ACC is their guys, like at 197, for example, they'll have a guy that's a champion, our guy's getting 3rd or 4th. And where we have a guy that's a champion, he's usually beating the NC State guy in the finals. So that points gap is really tough. Yeah. It's going to be hard to do it based on seeding, unfortunately. I think it's going to be really, really tight. There's a couple areas that you could pull it off at. I mean, 141 would be one because you're going to have Tom Crook and NC State's Ryan Jack in the finals. The semifinals, excuse me. But everywhere else, and 157, it's gotten Bryce and Donnie will meet in the semis. But everywhere else, it would be kind of a finals matchup for us to go over top of NC State. So it's going to be tough. A lot of things would have to go our way. It's possible, but a lot of things would have to happen.
All right, before I get into kind of the final questions here for you, would you rather win the ACC title, or is it every year be above them and say, fuck y'all cannot get above us in nationals?
It's got to be nationals, because that's where you take your next step to try and get to a national title. If your goal is not to win a national title, then why are you doing it? So it's got to be nationals. You want to get in the top 4. That's when you get on the podium. That's when you get a team trophy. We did that back in 2014, Kevin Dresser and Tony Roby, when they were getting this thing going. So you want to get a team title, and you want to get on the podium. So it's always going to be nationals at the end of the day. ACCs is just a qualifier.
Got it. All right. Well, this is what I got for you at the end here. This is if you watch us, and I know you occasionally listen and watch us, Joe, we do Tell the Truth Tuesdays after every football game. We come in here and we lay it on. We tell the good, the bad, and the ugly. We don't bullshit around. So now this is Tell the Truth Tuesday National Finals. I'm going to go to each weight class. You give me your expectations, wrestler names, however you feel. Let's start. You already talked about 125 already, but what's your expectation for 125 down at Nationals?
125 is tough. I really want to see Cooper Flynn get into the semifinals, get on ESPN, put on a show. If he gets through, that is just bonus points. That's gravy. But I want to see Cooper Flynn get All-American and hit the semifinals this year.
All right. What about 133?
Latona, he's had a little bit of a tough year. The cut's getting tough for him at 133. His body's growing. He's really tall. He's from Alabama, like our guy Tally over here. Yes,
he
sir.
Probably out there with a dip of snuff right now.
But I got one in right now. So I really want to see Sam Latona All-American again. I think top 8 is where kind of the expectation there.
Nice. What about 141?
I think Tom Cook, the goal for him this year is to get to the next day, to stay in contention and get to day 2. Because at day 2, you're in the blood round, you're one match away. The blood round's like the round of 12, and that's where you narrow it down to All-American to the top 8. Get to day 2, get to the blood round. That's his goal.
All right, Joe, 149.
National title.
That's your boy Caleb, right?
Stamping it. National title.
All right. 157.
Ooh, Bryce is so electric. The guy that won it last year from Penn State is coming back. Bryce had him on his back. Probably should have been a pin. Anything could happen. Put him in the semis.
And I think what you said earlier with Bryce and injuries, you think Bryce has that potential to get close?
Yeah.
Okay.
He is super close. And if he's healthy, maybe he's not burnt out from not having to cut weight all year.
Right.
Here we go.
165.
Just make weight.
No DQs.
Get on the scale, buddy.
No forfeits. No. Who is 165, by the way? Just
Connor Brady.
Connor Brady. Oh, okay.
Connor.
Highly rated kid, right? Connor pretty highly rated.
Yeah, he was very highly rated coming out of high school.
All righty. Who's got next?
We know about 174.
National
Beast.
title. Two-time.
We want to see it. We want to see it hanging.
184 coming up. TJ Stewart. His dad's a great guy. I got to give him a shout out, by the way. Great person. I'm going to say TJ Stewart's going to All-American as a freshman, and he's going to make some noise.
All right. Got 2 more. We got the 2 big boys here. 197. Tom Crook.
I want to see Andy Smith just win a match this year. Just win one match, get us some points. Stay alive.
Heavyweight, 285.
Hunter Kafka has to hit the blood rounds, or it's probably curtains for his starting time.
Does he have years left?
He's got one more.
Okay, so if you don't think he makes blood rounds, they go try to find somebody else to take that spot?
Yeah, because Jimmy Mullins has all the potential in the world.
All righty, so I'm going to wrap this up. we wrap this up, Hokies team finish will be.
I'm going between 8 or 9. It's maybe
Okay.
top 10. Top 10 nation this year.
All right.
And kind of a rebuild.
That's respectable considering, all the things you mentioned earlier with the injuries and everything else. And especially if you can get Makai and Caleb those natties, that'd be a good little send-off.
They get the natties, you're looking at 6th, probably 5th or 6th, right outside the podium. And you're in a year that's kind of having a little bit of a rebuild,
Is there any scenario where you see podium? Like, is there anything when you're looking at these weight classes and the guys, could someone take a Connor Brady? Could Connor Brady get over whatever's going on?
Yeah, you're going to have to backfill with All-Americans. That's the only way to do it. Okay. So you're going to have to get multiple All-Americans and then have probably 2 finalists, maybe 3.
Okay. All righty. Joe, listen, man, thanks for the education. We really appreciate it in wrestling because, I enjoy watching it. I've got some friends I text with. We appreciate you coming on tonight, taking your time. If that baby's sleeping right now, get your ass to bed. All right. If it ain't, I don't know what to tell you to do. Watch the rest of us with Matej and see what's going on. But hey, man, we really appreciate you taking your time tonight, man. Okay.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody having me on, and I appreciate the dad advice from Tally. I call Tally, and he's always got my back.
Oh yeah,
man. I try to keep it real. Hey, listen to me. Whatever your wife tell you to do, you better fucking do it.
That's why I ran this sport.
That postpartum is real. You better listen to what that woman's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, boys, before we bring on Matej Sis on the backside of the program here, we are going to take a break from our digital partners and Main Street Pharmacy.
I can probably save you a lot of money, and I can take a lot better care of you. That's pretty much it. My name is Jeremy Counts, and I'm a pharmacist. I own and operate Main Street Pharmacy here in downtown Blacksburg. My brother's a pharmacist, I'm a pharmacist, my uncle's a pharmacist, my dad's a pharmacist. I remember he would give me M&Ms to count in little pill counters. This is just something I've always done, and I'm just lucky that what I know so well is something that I can do and feel good about it and give back to people. Pharmacies are your frontline defense. Pharmacy's job is to make sure you're getting optimal care for the lowest price possible. Also, we take the pressure off of emergency rooms. I'll tell people immediately when they need to go to the doctor, or I'll tell them if they just need a cream over the counter. If there's something that isn't commercially available, if it's something that's not available in a certain strength or a certain form or anything like that, we'll make it. Tailor-made medications. Some of those options save people a lot of money. What motivates me? I get to take care of people and live in Blacksburg. That's all I need.
As we take a quick break, we'd like to tell you about getting your free website report from our digital partner, Grassroots Digital Marketing Studio. They'll tell you how your website ranks on Google, on-site SEO, and social media. No commitment to buy anything. You can get your free report by visiting grassrootsdigitalstudio.com/free-website-report. Now back to the episode.
All right, welcome back again. We appreciate Joe Hunter Rogers there, taking some time, get us a little education on wrestling. And now let's flip it back to football. Gentlemen, he joins us twice a year. We love having him from 247 Sports. Let's talk some recruiting, y'all, because 2025 is hot and ready. Matej Sis, how are you living, buddy?
What's going on, guys? We got the full crew.
Full crew, full boat tonight, man. It's your lucky day.
It is.
I'm loving it.
Matej, what's been up, man? How's life been in the last few months here?
Life has been good, obviously. With all the recruiting changes, with the portal, NIL, everything, it's constantly going on. Took a little time after signing day to kind of step away for a bit, but right back in it now.
And obviously, right back in it. I'm gonna start this one off, boys, because a massive hire today. I don't care what anybody says. Massive hire.
Especially with the recruiting implications. Gunnar Brewer, who was formerly the wide receiver coach for the Maryland Terrapins, is now joining the Virginia Tech Hokies as the director of high school relations. I mean, I looked up Gunnar's. When I saw this happen, I immediately went to 247. I did, Matej. I did. I'm not. This is not a shameless plug. I went to 247. And I looked up, who's this guy recruited?
Jesus. He ain't no slouch when it comes to recruiting. So what's your takeaways on this, man? And seeing someone of his ilk, he's not going to be an on-field coach. He's strictly going to be dealing with high school relations.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, just first off, I was a little worried that they were going to spoil this a couple weeks ago. I mean, he was on Twitter following like half of Hokie Nation. So I was a little worried they wouldn't get the announcement out in time. But, you know, exceptional hire, a guy that's been around for, 3 decades at this point. Like he was coaching Randy Moss back in college. So this is a guy that, totally like gets it from a wide receiver coaching perspective, knows how to identify talent. And not only that, but I think he's a guy that has, offensive coordinator experience from his time at UNC. He's been around a lot of big programs that recruit very well. So he's bringing a ton of experience, a ton of connections. I just think it's the perfect fit.
Yeah, when we were looking at it, we were like, all right, so you got, you're pulling a guy that's an on-field coach, and now you've got him in just this off-field role. Like that's an impressive way to eat off the plate of another Power 5 school. And it's twice we've done it in consecutive off seasons too. Looking back with the Elijah Brooks hire last year, so to me, just really impressive way of filling in the role with Glenwood's departure. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do, and whether there's going to be any residual impact with his history with wide receivers in that room as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's the interesting piece about it, in my opinion. Oh, go ahead, Tally.
I'll just say, don't fuck it up. Just come in and do something positive. We got the wide receiver room going good. Just come in and hey, we might need some help in some other areas. Don't come in there and fuck nothing up. Let them roll.
Let them roll.
Bad boys.
All right. What y'all got next, boys? Brian, Tally, Shelton, fire away.
I guess my question is, go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Tally. I'll let you ride.
I was just going to ask Matej, what games is he going to this year, man? We see you all the time. I mean, you come on the show, but I don't think I ever seen you at a game. What games? Are you going to any games?
Yeah, I'm planning on it this year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it down last year. I went to the Rutgers game, which was away. I went to the Tulane Bowl game, which was interesting. Michael Pratt was up there in the press box eating everyone's pizza up there.
Oh, that's why we don't see him. I forgot we was dealing with. We've been with the press box guy.
He opted out, but he was there. But in terms for next year, like, I'm super excited about Miami. Nice. Clemson is a huge one. Obviously, those 2 games are probably the biggest games on the schedule. And I think, really, this is the first time in a while that Virginia Tech has expectations of doing very well. Yes. I think it varies depending on who you ask, whether it's 8-4, 9-3. Some people think much higher than that, which is fine. But regardless, I think we haven't seen Virginia Tech go toe-to-toe against some of these better programs in a very, very long time. And, right. Last year was kind of the case. Beat the teams who you're supposed to beat, lose against, the teams that are better than you. So, those are the 2 that I'm looking at. And then, the pipe dream of Stanford, little vacation out there. I think that would be fantastic. So looking forward to that. If I can swing the flights, I'll be there.
You said a lot of games, man. You didn't say the one that I'm thinking about. You need to clear that schedule and get down there to Nashville.
Vegas.
I know. I'm scared though. Last time I was in Nashville didn't end up too well. So
okay.
Yeah, we'll see. No, but
I don't even want to ask what happened, but we done had a lot of stuff happen in the last couple of years, a lot of losses. We had COVID. So if something bad happened, you might need to stay away.
Are you guys all going down for that one?
I'm going to be there. I know Tally said he's going to try to be there. Curtis, we got to
TBD. TBD. We're TBD.
Maybe a
little Nashville is only about an hour and a half from my house, so
Tally running the whole weekend down there.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be ready to go.
I'll make it a 4-day stay. I'm going down Thursday.
Nice.
I'm gonna go have fun. What are you gonna do?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna take my wife out one night. We're gonna have a good time before all the football shenanigans start on Friday.
There you go.
There you go. What you got, Brian?
Yeah, I mean the thing I want to talk about. We just kind of wrapped up winter workout. We're kind of getting into spring break. what's this period like for the coaches in terms of kind of ramping up some of those 2025 visits and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a huge emphasis right now on recruiting. I think winter workouts were great for the team. Heard really good things about Keyshawn Burgos. I think he had a really, really good winter. So excited to see what he looks like in the spring. Some of those younger offensive linemen, Lath did a really good job. Johnny Garrett's a guy that I'm really excited about as well. I think we've been hearing more and more, especially like later on in the season last year. So I'm excited to see what he can do. But yeah, just wrapping those up. I think we're 10 days away from the first practice. So there's a little bit of time right now to kind of hone in on the recruiting board and really get things rolling here.
Are you going to try to get to any spring practices or spring game this year?
I'm hopeful that I can make it down to the spring game. So
okay.
that I'm targeting being down there for that. So yeah, we'll see.
All righty. Well, let's put a wrap on 2024 first, because so many guys in this class. Guys, a year ago tonight mentioned. I remember Keelan Brody Adams was one of the guys you mentioned. We've got to know his dad. We've seen him develop. We saw where he rated. So, but Keelan, you got Gabe, you got Chance Wiggins, Quinn Reddish, so many names. But let me ask you this. What guy in that cycle, in the 2024 cycle, you believe is still by 247 criminally underrated? Like, this guy is not where he is way too low.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think this year they did a pretty good job. I mean, obviously it's like the highest average recruit rating for Virginia Tech in 24/7 since the database began. So, they got a lot of quality guys. There's no real fillers, no guys that are really below an 86, I believe, from our in-house ranking. So I think they did a really good job. The obvious answer would have been Andrew Hanchuk. He recently got elevated to an 88, but he was a guy that, sustained an injury junior year, kind of turned it around senior year. Like, this is a guy that if everything went according to plan, like, he would have been lined up for OSU. Like, he would have gone there. It would have been a done deal, 4-star guy. With the injury stuff, with some schools questioning, okay, is he getting too big post-injury? Should we move him to offensive line? Like, I remember when he committed, a lot of people on Twitter were saying this guy could potentially move to the offensive side of the ball, but this guy's an absolute freak. I think Brent Pry called him a unicorn. He's also he's on campus now doing a really good job. I think he will be really good. I think it will take him some time before he really gets involved. But he's one of those guys. And then I would say another one would be Tommy Ricard. I think he's not talked about it as much, but right. He's a guy that I think interior offensive line could potentially move to center in a couple years, but he's strong as an ox. And he'll maul people. So I think they did a really good job with him and getting him on board.
That's pretty good, because that was two names that I didn't even, have on the names of people that I would have asked about. So that's why you're here, man. You give us the insight.
Absolutely.
That's why we love you to be here.
Tally, go back in your memory bank.
Him and
you mentioned Hanchuk last July. I remember you talking about him, and you said if he hadn't hurt his knee, this kid would be way up here.
Yeah,
I like that y'all at 247, even though he is a Hokie, y'all only can give him an 88. You give grief about that all the time. But I like what they did is they saw his production in senior and said, "Now this guy isn't an 85. He isn't an 86. He's borderline a 4-star." I love that.
Yeah.
Which one of y'all got next, Brian, Tally?
I think the biggest question I have is, like, of these guys in that 2024 class, who do you think can have that most immediate impact?
Yeah, that's another great question. I think a lot of people will jump and say Kamari Copeland just because, he played at Iowa, Western Community College. Like, you look at him, like, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, those videos.
Oh, I have.
He is unbelievable. Like, he's absolutely unbelievable. He's got that mean streak in him, but he's also the kindest guy you'll ever meet. Like, he loves Virginia Tech. That guy is a mauler and super strong. I think, he'll fit in the 2 deep at the very least. I think he could play right away. But, in terms of like true freshman guys, I would go with Gerard Johnson. I think he's a guy that, when they went in home with him, they were like, yep, you could play right away. Like, he's a guy that's built to play right now. I think it's interesting with his development. He's obviously an edge. He's a little bigger at like 240, 245. I think he's a guy that, it's going to be tough to keep the weight off of him. Like, he's going to, in a college weightlifting program, he's really going to bulk up. And I'm curious to see if he'll slide inside later on in his career, but definitely someone that I could see making a run at the 2 deep as a true freshman.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that's exciting because, that's definitely an area that I think they targeted heavily with some of the deep tackles moving on, some of the overall depth that we're trying to build at the edge position. So if we can get edge short up and, again, get some bodies in there to replace some of those departing D tackles, that's going to be really important for this year.
100%.
Matej, we know you have to watch a lot of film, and we know you have to, probably go to a lot of different games and things like that. But out of the recruiting class for 2024, who was your, I would say, just personal favorite that you've seen that Virginia Tech pulled?
It's tough to pick a favorite. I think, I've really liked a lot of the guys that they brought in 2024. I think, I instantly go to Tyler Mason. I know he put up video game numbers. He was playing single A. Like, I get it. It was not great competition, and he probably should have been on another team. But, hey, like, this guy is legit. I think, he could be someone that you could put in that underrated category. I think he was like an 86 on the composite. He's a guy that, he's on campus right now. He looks good. Like, he is someone that's really pushing. I know running back is set for next year, but like, and to say like, oh, he'll be the third running back, he'll get 1 carry every 3 games, but like, this is a guy that really could play right away if the situation were a little different. He's a flexible guy. He's gonna play at running back, but he's a guy that could switch over to safety. Like, he has that type of athleticism. And I'm really excited about him. He's put on a lot of muscle. He's really just done everything that everyone has asked from him. So really excited about him. I mentioned Andrew Hanchuk. He's, another guy that's really impressing. And then the last one I would say is Joshua Clark. Like, he was my absolute favorite throughout the process. Alexandria guy, I think, he's, the lone true cornerback in the class. Cheetah picked him out early on, and he's a guy that I really, really like. Fluid hips, reminds you of like your classic Virginia Tech cornerback. I think he's going to be really, really good. Very excited about him.
Yeah, and it is what's up. And the 2024 class was great. Not the biggest class, and I got some I'm going to hit on a little bit later with you, Matej. But I want to flip over now, and let's pivot a little bit to portal. Because last year, very big portal class. This year, not as big, but with guys like Montavious Cunningham coming in from was it Georgia Southern, Georgia State? Always mix them up, y'all. State. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Sam Brumfield, Middle Tennessee at middle linebacker. Kelvin Gillum, the Highland Springs product, who went out to Oklahoma. And like a lot of guys from Virginia who leave, they got to come back home to find the place to make it happen. And Aeneas Peoples, an all-ACC performer. We talked about Nashville. In your opinion, could all 4 of these guys be starters week 1 in Nashville?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the plan with these guys. They won't say it, but Sam Brumfield is pretty much walking into a, empty Mike linebacker position. Like, they struggled last year there. They needed to identify someone to bring in. Obviously has a lot of ties with Marv from various stops, but he's a guy that will come in right away. Like, he's built for it. He's seasoned. Montavious Cunningham, really like him. I think he can fit in a lot of different positions. Curious to see how he ends up. It sounds like he's, probably that starter at right tackle as of right now. We'll see if that holds up. He seems like someone that, long-term you would want him at, on the interior of the offensive line. But despite him being, 6'3", 6'4", he's got really long arms. He's someone that can hold up at a tackle position. So curious to see kind of what his plan is. And then Kelvin Gilliam, he was kind of a late ad right after the bowl game. I think we saw, you mentioned that, last year, a lot of portal ads. This year was a little tougher just with the scholarship situation. So, attrition had to happen for him to come in. He's a guy that I'm excited to see. He also looks like an absolute unit. Just some of the photos I saw from, of him, he looks totally built to be in there and handle extended action. We'll see. I know he's been in a limited role, but he's definitely capable of being a full-time starter. And then Aeneas Peebles, he's probably, he's the crown of this crop. He's the guy that's going to come in and, really, really excited about him. I think you think about all the guys that you lose from last year, and then you bring in someone that's maybe better than all of them. Right. I would hate to say that, but, it could be true. So definitely a huge ad. I think all of them are very strategic. A lot of them have various connections to the coaching staff. So I think they did a good job. Even though it's a small class, they identified what they needed and brought in guys that can, plug and play right away.
Agreed.
100%. All right, let's flip again and let's head to 2025. And I think Shelton's got a question for you concerning the class of 2025.
Yeah, well, I wanted to look kind of a big picture at VT recruiting. So I'm a big numbers guy, and over the summer, I spent some time working on a recruiting database the last 10 years or so, just looking at how classes ended up and how different programs succeeded. And particularly, I looked at geography. So I looked at, different states, Virginia, North Carolina, sort of those mid-Atlantic recruiting battleground states. And I found a couple interesting observations. So over the past few years or so, the state of North Carolina has absolutely outpaced Virginia in terms of producing NFL draft picks. And that's generally speaking how I'd like to sort of define success, because I think in order to win, 8 to 10 games at the Power 5 level, you got to have NFL players on your team. Yeah. And from 2016 to 2020, the conversion rate for Virginia blue chippers getting to the NFL was pretty bad. I mean, one of the worst states in the country. So obviously, things can change. And when Bry got here, he talked about recruiting the footprint, recruiting Virginia. I think people sometimes conflate those things because obviously, North Carolina, the DMV, Tennessee, et cetera, those are all big parts of Virginia's recruiting or prize recruiting footprint. So what I wanted to ask was, with obviously Prize got a lot of, he's got a lot of commits from Virginia, some highly rated prospects. Do you see the overall talent level in Virginia and Virginia high school football improving? And how do you feel like the staff has gone about in terms of just balancing, how they manage between getting guys from Virginia and Maryland and DC and, North Carolina? How do you feel like that has all sort of come together?
Yeah, I definitely feel like the overall talent pool of Virginia has gone up. I think it was a couple of years ago, I was looking at the top 10 and I was looking at guys that were highly rated 4 stars. And I was like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way these guys are rated this way. I think there was kind of a weird mass exodus with some of the bigger schools, especially in Virginia Beach. A lot of guys that were transferring out, kind of programs falling through on funding. They weren't able to attract as many top talents to their school. So those guys were going out of state. And I think that was a big reason that we saw for a couple of years. It was, right around COVID that we saw a huge drop off in Virginia specifically. But I think things have kind of come back together. Like we see schools like Oscar Smith are on the right track again, bringing in more talent, at least collegiate talent wise. I think, Maryland's always going to be huge. A lot of private schools, a lot of big time schools there. And North Carolina has really, made a major emphasis on bringing in talent and really investing in high school football. So I think we've been seeing that for a while. North Carolina's definitely, there was that whole movement, I think it was 2018's class where, it was like NC2 VT, because there quite literally was not enough talent in Virginia to, make a football team. So I definitely think that, the staff is cognizant of all of that. They'll probably try to pick a handful of guys every year from the DMV, from North Carolina. If everything were to go to plan, you would get 8 to 10 guys from Virginia. Your next highest pool would be from North Carolina, and then the DMV, specifically like Maryland. So has been. I think Virginia is still catching up in terms of talent. I think it's going to take a little bit, but there's definitely some legitimate talent we saw last cycle, the cycle before. But it's definitely ramping up.
Good news to hear.
Yes.
Really good news to hear.
Yeah, I mean, let's start there because we got 2025. We already got some verbals from some of those Virginia kids. You talked about the 757. We got a couple of those guys, along with Carter Stallard in the boat right now. What's the buzz about the Hokies already grabbing 3 Virginia kids, including those 2 guys from the 757?
Yeah, it's out. It's absolutely huge. I mean, I think specifically the 757 has been a thorn in the heel for Virginia Tech for the past decade. And Virginia Tech is really making major strides in the area. I think you think of even last year, a guy like Brody Adams. I know that there was a lot of pessimism at the beginning. You get a guy like that in the boat, green run guy. Now you got 2 more green run guys. Like, he was huge in getting Knowledge and Jay into the boat. Both guys really rely on him. And, that was a huge conversation, being able to walk into schools and have legitimate conversations. How's my guy doing at school? It's not just, hey, I'm here to see who's your best guy. Like, can we get someone to come visit? Like, you're not opening doors anymore. I think they're open now. So definitely the 757 has been great. I think Fontel has done a great job in Richmond specifically. And then, we've seen the last 2 off seasons, the coaches have done chalk talks, going to different areas, making sure to get to the 757 this year. A lot of great feedback from the coaches there, like really excited about the program. I think, you look back at the Fuente days, and I hate to say it, but there were some schools that completely closed the door on Virginia Tech, like did not want to send their kids to the school. And I think now, like, very open-minded. I think people really want to give Virginia Tech the first shot, which is great. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these guys lock in official visits right away, and build more relationships. I will say, it's still like they're doing a great job. I think Virginia Tech is right on schedule, but these relationships take years and years and years, and they're doing a great job now. And I think it's perfectly where they need to be, but still work to be done.
And kind of to piggyback off of that, what you run into with that, you just start to get those kids back on campus and in the games. Just say we'll take Brody Adams, for example. The reason it's so big to have a kid like that on campus is he can talk to the people in his high school, not just about football. How's your quality of life in Blacksburg? Where do you get your hair cut when you're there? Where you like to eat when you're there? Where can I go fishing? You know what I'm saying? Things like that kids talk about besides football. But if you don't have people on rosters that can go and actually talk and give that, word of mouth, which is what we didn't have for so long, then you don't have somebody that's out there advocating for you. So like you said, those doors have been opened, and kind of takes us to the next point of what we're looking at. When you were here last time, man, you told us some stuff, and I'm gonna be real, I didn't believe you. I didn't, like, some of the names you was calling, I was like, there's no way that kid's looking this way. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of, I hate to keep bringing Brody up, but speaking of Keelan Adams, like, I was like, there's no way. Man, he's looking at Alabama, he's looking at Ohio State, he's looking at South Carolina, and he commits and goes to Tech. So a lot of these kids that we're seeing now, you know what I'm saying, it's kind of got a Hokie fan like myself like, oh yeah, we got a shot. What is it? Brett Clatterbone. Mm-hmm. A kid like that somebody like me thought, okay, he's going to Clemson. Then you just keep watching and you keep, hearing things, and you see, hey, we do got a shot. We're in there. Deuce Edwards, Messiah DeLome. The names go on and on of kids that I feel like we have a shot at. But you're the expert. So out of those kind of high-ranking kids out of Virginia, have you seen, kids, or do you have any kind of expectations for Virginia Tech with any of those high-ranking Virginia kids?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could come on here and say, 100% this guy's coming in. I think,
right.
This year's a lot more competitive in a good way. I think, last year we saw some key battles that Virginia Tech was able to win and a few other battles they were never in. I think when you look at this cycle, you have a lot of talent specifically in Virginia, and I think Virginia Tech is at the very least in every single battle. And I think that's huge for this year. You mentioned Brett. Like, this was a guy that was a shoe-in for Notre Dame. Things kind of changed there a little bit. I wasn't sure that Virginia Tech was really ever like seriously considered, and then all of a sudden, they're very much in the mix. I know education is huge for him. They put out a huge pitch about Virginia Tech's education there. I think the parents are very involved as well. He's a guy that's like complete ghost mode when it comes to media, which is fine, fair enough. But so it is tough to get intel on him, but he is planning an official visit to Virginia Tech, which just kind of shows his interest level in the Hokies. I think he's taking it very seriously. I think right now it's between Clemson and Virginia Tech. So we'll see what happens there. I know Clemson is absolutely cleaning up right now in Virginia. Yeah. They're a program that has a lot of things figured out when it comes to high school recruiting. Mika Matthews is another guy, top of the list. Yeah. Dual sport athlete, plays baseball. I know they brought him out to the facilities there. He was able to kind of chat with everyone on, both for baseball and for football. They see him as a wide receiver. He's a guy that sits very well with Virginia Tech. Like, he's kind of cut his top group. I know UNC is big on him. They're the ones to watch out for, but Virginia Tech is right there. They've done a really good job with him. Caleb Williams is another guy. He's been to Virginia Tech multiple times now. He's set 4 of his official visits. Tennessee is a big player for him. As you'll see with all these guys, I'm mentioning like big name programs. Like, right. Virginia Tech really has to battle against some of these big programs, but they have the last shot at him. He's a legit 6'6", 250 kid. He's going to be huge. I know that they're really trying to get bigger in the trenches, and he's a guy that is just an athletic freak. So he's huge. He's locked in his official. Deuce Edwards is a guy that I thought was going to be a Hokie in January. He's someone that decided to kind of wait out the process. He's gotten a lot more interest from Power 5 schools, a lot more offers. He does have an official visit lined up. I would say Virginia Tech is the team to beat for him right now. Really, really good cornerback. Probably out of all the guys on the list, he's the one that probably sits at the top right now in terms of, my confidence level. Messiah Delhomme, Warwick guy, if that sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Very good quarterback came from there.
Absolutely. Absolute beast. Is really in tune with OSU right now. I think another good staple of your recruiting is not only this cycle, but last cycle too. Ohio State really tried to get a couple guys from the commitment list, and there's a lot of battles right now involved with Ohio State. So, Virginia Tech is looking in the right places to find some talent. Jalen Gilchrist, he's probably the number one guy when it comes to the recruiting board. USC or South Carolina, I should say, is the top team right now. I think there was a lot of ground to make up. He was kind of a kid, and there are various guys within the state of Virginia that envision playing college ball in the SEC, going out of state, kind of going towards the nicer things in life. And I think Virginia Tech really had to come in there and make up a lot of ground to convince him that, hey, maybe staying at home isn't so bad. Like, here's the vision we have for you. He's a top 100 guy. He knows that he's loved at Virginia Tech. And I think while, a lot of the people at 24/7 would say that South Carolina is on top right now, I think Virginia Tech is not far behind. He's planning an official visit that should be coming up. And I think that's a huge sign of his interest. If he really just wanted to go out of state, I think, he's been to Virginia Tech. He's seen what they have to offer, but I think he really is listening. So we'll see. And yeah, those are some of the top guys in Virginia.
Matej, you ain't got to say much on this because I know you got a job to do, and I don't want to interfere with that. But I got to speak on something, and I'm gonna ask y'all: have y'all seen Shane Beamer talking about his coaches and bringing in new coaches and people leave? Have y'all seen that?
I have not. I've heard. I have not seen the tape yet.
Shane Beamer is a madman right now. I hope he don't win a game next year. I hope he loses every fucking game that he plays, and nobody goes to South Carolina. So just because you brought up Jalen Gilchrist, I thought about that. I've heard a lot about that recruiting battle, and I can't speak too much because I'm not there. It's secondhand information, but pretty reliable sources. Shane is a motherfucker, man. He does not. I don't know what it is, but he does not want Virginia Tech to do anything. He is out to bury Virginia Tech, and he's got some bad stuff to say about Pride, man. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna be interested to see if Shane makes it out of this next year. You know what I'm saying? All jokes aside,
that's why
I'm interested to see what he does. I mean, being in the middle of SEC country, like nobody's checking for South Carolina when you start talking about SEC races. So I'm gonna be interested to see what Shane does, because Shane's got a lot to say about Virginia Tech right now.
Yeah, he's a savage. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I was gonna say I wasn't gonna ask you to say much, but I've got some stuff, man. It's crazy to me because I'm thinking like, we're Virginia Tech, man. We ain't making no noise for real like that. But he really hurt, man. He's hurt.
You mean tell you when you hear something like that, and we can say in here, we can talk about it. That sounds like somebody's scared because he knows. Well, hold on, he was there. He knows what happens when it starts rolling, man. And they go down to 7-5, and they hit into North Carolina, and they go into South Carolina, and they go into Tennessee, and they start pulling guys out. He knows if that happens because of where he's recruiting, that's his top guys, and if we start picking them off, he knows he's.
Well, right now he knows he has to go to the Mid-Atlantic to pull the caliber of players to compete, not even do any winning, just fucking compete in the SEC.
True.
Right.
So if we start eating off where he feels comfortable, I'm with Curtis a little bit. He's a little playing a little scared.
Yeah, he's full court press on Gilchrist right now.
Yeah,
he's the one that's making the trips. He's full court press on that because he's a little nervous, but that's okay. That's okay.
But you know what, Matej, you probably can speak a little bit to this is when he got that job and where we were coming out and who we had on staff, nobody was scared. Now you got Brent Pry, ace recruiter. You got Fontel, ace. The landscape has changed, so he knows. He looks up at the alma mater and says, they ain't joking no more up there.
Well, I'll say this just from some of it's speculation, but some of it's, like I said, some secondhand information. So the wide receiver coach that he had there, right, that left, he got demoted as a result of not getting certain recruits. I'll say that. So what happened with him is he got demoted because he didn't get certain recruits that they thought were in their boat. And I was like, okay, I ain't gonna say I didn't believe it, but when he came out on Curtis, you gotta go watch it. He's in the press conference. He goes, yeah, I don't, this guy, he left and we got our money back from him and more. And we brought in another guy that's even better than him. Yeah. I was like, I've just not heard a coach come out and say that. And some, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess if I'm a fan, I might try to gas it and go, man, our coach is real, but that's just not diplomatic. You just don't do that.
Yeah, you don't do that.
You just don't do that. And it's like, I said, does he have Asperger's or something? Like he just like he comes out and says stuff like when you go back and look at the stuff that he said, like about the refs, like somebody was eating hot dogs. He just be crazy, man. So yeah, Shane, we on your ass all year. You better not fuck up, boy. We on your ass, Shane.
Tally, you make me stay up till 1:00 today looking at all these videos. I'm gonna get your ass next time I see you.
I'll send it to you. It's quick.
Send it to me tomorrow morning. I'll watch it at the bus stop.
Okay, okay, we can do that.
All right, I'm gonna flip back, and I want to talk about a non-Virginia kid, but someone with a direct relation to Virginia. Let's talk about Fahim Deline up out of Maryland. We got to ask it. I mean, Fahim is a top 20 player in the country. He's elite. He's elite. He's a 5-star. Little brother has had a tremendous 2 years at Virginia Tech so far. Tremendous. All-American his freshman year, and did not really have the sophomore slump. He didn't have the massive step. He took a solid step to that second year, but most time we talk about sophomore slumps, guys struggling. All right, I'm gonna throw this one out there for my fellas. So, do we have a Lloyd Christmas with him? Do we have a chance with him, or what? Because little brother's got one more year left.
Man, his brother's on campus. He's taking trips.
I know.
I say you got a chance. I ain't gonna say how big of the chance is, but I'll say you got a chance.
What do you
know
think?
what I'm saying? It comes down to production too. I mean, with a lot of the guys, I think like we took a step last year from where we were. As you seen, which sell the shirts, man. Sell the shirts. We see the shirts with the 3 and the 7 on the back, and then the question mark. Like, we want them shirts. What is that gonna be? We had 3, then we had 7. What is this next year gonna be? That's gonna be a big thing, man.
What are you hearing?
I think there's, not to sound too overly optimistic, but there is a very serious chance here. Virginia Tech is very much in the running. Maryland's another one that's very close with him. He's obviously, as you mentioned, a top 20 guy. Like Alabama was all over him. I think they were the favorites early on, and then Nick Saban left, and things kind of, took a turn there. LSU is a big one for him, and then again, Ohio State. They've been making moves with him. So he has, there's very legitimate competition and all-out competition for him. He's a guy that, it's a little similar in a sense to the Dax Hollifield situation. I know he's much higher ranked, but you have all these nice things in front of you. He's going to take all his official visits. He's going to hear the best pitches from all the best schools. And I think, the playing card for Virginia Tech is, what you have there. You're going to come into a favorable position. You have familiarity. Everything's going to be about you. You can step on the field early. There's a lot to love from that pitch. And, that's something that obviously resonated with Dax Hollifield. Sometimes you come back to the school that's been there all along. And I know they're going to stay consistent. So I do think there's a chance, but it's going to be a long and wild ride to get there. So we'll see. Like, it would not surprise me if he goes to LSU this summer and decides, what, I've seen everything. Like, I've seen those locker rooms. They're pretty nice. So it could be anything, but I really do think Virginia Tech has a very legitimate chance. I know even with his brother, like, there was opportunities for him to play elsewhere, and he chose to stay at Virginia Tech. So I think there's a lot of love from that family for what Virginia Tech can provide, and especially an NFL pipeline. So there's a lot to love there for Fahim, but it's going to take some time to really iron that out.
So what you're saying is we need to fast track those locker room renovations.
Oh yeah.
All right. We also need to
get Mansour to the NFL.
Yeah,
those 2 things.
Hey, Tally, we need to go up there, and that flight when he leaves to LSU, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Come on, Matej, you up in Northern Virginia? We'll run some of Ocean's 11 shit. Like, he ain't making it to LSU unless he wants to drive.
I'll be the pilot.
There we go, baby. Let's do it. What you got, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about Fahim, let's go ahead and talk about some of these footprint states that aren't Virginia. We got some officials on the board out of Maryland from Fahim, Malik, a couple other guys. A lot of guys out of North Carolina, like Shamarius Peterkin, Tayshawn Alston, Tennessee with Sam Haley, Carson Lawrence. Last couple cycles, Prize kind of hit those surrounding states pretty hard. And we've seen a lot of the states kind of thrown out there with a lot of the offers. Maryland and North Carolina really heavy this cycle with number of offers. What state do you think will bear the most fruit come signing day?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be either North Carolina or Maryland. ton of guys there for now that have set up official visits. I think there'll be even more as they continue to kind of evaluate talent there. This first crop and a lot of the guys that we're seeing taking these official visits are really the guys that are narrowing in on their recruitment, guys that are cutting down their list, trying to get to campuses this spring and this summer, and trying to make decisions before their senior year. There's going to be even more guys that go throughout the fall that Virginia Tech's going to want to, get later on in the cycle. Ton of talent in North Carolina right now. You mentioned some of the names. Peterkin is a huge one. He's teammates with Jadon Blair. They both set up official visits, both 4-star guys. Both really involved with UNC, but I think Virginia Tech has a good shot there. I think Blair also has a lot of interest from Notre Dame. And then you look at Malik Washington, very intriguing guy. I think he was just elevated to a 4-star prospect. Our guys at 24/7 just really love him, his blend of athleticism. He's really an amazing quarterback. It's kind of interesting with the situation right now. I know that Keldon Ryan is verbally committed, but Virginia Tech is open to taking 2 quarterbacks. And, they would love to get a guy like Malik Washington. He's 6'4", 210, really fast runner, really good arm, a bit unorthodox, but just an absolute gamer, and a guy that, they want to fit that mold of Kyron Drones too. So I think he's a guy that, they're really going to push for, try to get that second quarterback commit in the class. Fahim is there. I think he can start a movement with some of these other guys. Skylar Harvey's a very interesting guy. I think at the time of writing up a post-visit recap, he only had one Power 5 offer, and that was from Virginia Tech. And at the end of the interview I did with him, he just sent me his entire offer list. Like, legit was just, sending photos. And I was like, where did all this come from? Like, we heard you had one Power 5 offer and all of a sudden you have 10. So he's a guy that really got a lot of interest. And absolute huge human being at 6'7", I think over 300 pounds. So a lot of guys to like in Maryland and North Carolina. I think one of those 2 states will definitely take the cake for most outside of Virginia.
That's a lot of good stuff right there. We like to hear all of that. I guess we'll switch a little bit. In the last cycle, JC beat the allegations, man. JC beat the allegations. Everybody said JC couldn't recruit. JC proved them wrong. He's out here doing his thing, just living his life like it's golden. He's bringing in some good talent. JC's a cool guy. Fontel is who he is. They both led the charge as far as recruiting goes. So besides those guys, I'll ask you, do you see another position coach that could probably get in that top 20 ACC recruiter this year?
Absolutely. I think if there's going to be a guy on the staff, it's going to be Cheetah. Like, there's so much defensive back talent this year. I think that's the position group they're really going to try to hammer home. We talked about a lot of 4-star, 5-star safeties, a bunch of high 3-stars. We talked about Deuce, Fahim. You already got Knowledge in the boat. There's a lot of talent there, and I think he's a guy that, he only took 1 DB last cycle in terms of cornerbacks. I know that they brought in some safeties, but I think they're really going to hammer that home this year. And there's a ton of talent there. I think if all goes according to plan, like, he'll be top 15 for sure.
Nice. We need it.
We need it. And I think you see Cheetah's personality and you think defensive backs and that personality his, I feel like a lot of them will probably click right away with him. I want to ask you this because, you talk to high school recruits, you talk to coaches, you talk to people, but what comes up about this staff? When you're talking to a player we're recruiting, or maybe when we've already landed, what's like the words that come out? What's that constant, like every player I talk to, this is what I hear? Because I think that's something we all are interested in because, we've had the pleasure in the last year. We've interviewed Coach Pry, we've interviewed Coach Mines, we've interviewed Coach Price, and we interviewed Coach Moen. When you talk to someone, what is it about this staff that they say it's like every time I hear this?
Yeah, I think the buzzword that every recruit that I've ever interviewed has said is family. I know it's a little cliche, but when you think of Virginia Tech, like the coaches like genuinely enjoy recruiting. They genuinely enjoy creating these relationships, not just with the recruits, with the families, with the coaches, trainers, people in the community. I know they talk about it all the time. They do back it up. And when you look at some of these other schools, you got your Ohio States, your Alabamas, Penn States, like no shade on them. Like there are 100 interns that are, texting recruits and sometimes you're not talking to your position coach, right? And I think like with Virginia Tech, you're getting, a full court treatment from everyone from the ground floor all the way up. Like Brent Pry is not just saying, go out there and recruit. Like he's putting in effort too. And I think that effort goes a long way with these recruits. And I think, that family atmosphere, they know it's a fun time. They know they're going to be developed. They know like success will come on the field, or at least they hope so. But overall, I think it's just that atmosphere that like the coaches genuinely care and they want to recruit. It's not that they have to.
Yeah, I can see that because, when you go back and look at like the draft day thing they had as far as what was it, like signing day? When Pry's talking, man, you can tell he's dug into the families. He knows all kinds of stories about moms, brothers, fathers. So, I mean, that's not everybody doesn't do that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna say that's the blueprint because you got some coaches at bigger programs that that's not what they do. They may be an X's or O's guy, or they may have a person that handles that, but Pry's taking that, and like you said, I can see where they've taken the family mantra and they really live it. So that's pretty cool.
Well, the other thing, Tyler, you mentioned about that is the bigger programs. I don't think that resonates with them. I think because we're Ohio State. You want to go to the league? You want $1 million?
Right.
Come here. That's all they've got. Now, what you see a lot of times is people go there and they come out with the stories of, man, they were assholes. And that's okay. That's okay. It's football. Yeah. People have to be jerks. You got to be assholes because you're trying to get the best out of them. But the whole thing you hear so many times is they were two-faced. They got me in that door, and immediately they were different people. And it feels like, to me, and again, having Kevin Drones, shout out Kevin. I know Kevin is listening tonight, and having other people talking with is, these guys are like, they're going to be straight up with you.
Right.
They're going to be straight up with you from day one. And I'm sure there's some of the tougher conversations that they have with these kids that they continue having, where it's, your Alabama, your Georgia, you don't have to have those hard conversations because you know what? You don't want us. You're okay. That kid right there, he wants us just as bad.
Right.
I think too, like, again, no shade to some of the other schools I mentioned. Like they do have proven recruiters. They do have good connections with kids. I think the difference is where Virginia Tech has been, there's more of that like urgency in the recruiting process. You kind of mentioned it, like, these other schools, they have brands. They've been at the top. They year in, year out, they're bringing in guys no matter what they say, what they do. But like for Virginia Tech, they want to do it the right way. They want to build those relationships. And I think it's important too, because they're realizing like if you're having these fake relationships and you're bringing guys in and saying the right things, like they're just going to enter the transfer portal and leave. Like they truly want to build it up. So I think they're investing that time now, so that these guys are staying, they're helping the rebuild, helping get Virginia Tech back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, when you talk about the transfer portal too, like building those relationships, even if it doesn't come to fruition the first go round with the transfer portal, so many opportunities to get a second shot at a kid. And if you were building that relationship to begin with, when you look at a kid like Kelvin Gilliam, like that's an opportunity that, you stick with it, you keep going, and then it comes back around for you, and you're able to maximize that. So that's really important, and I think the staff has done a good job about that.
100% APR too.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say it comes down to, you know what I'm saying. It starts with ideal. You know what I'm saying? Like you're selling your business plan, and you go and trying to get a loan from the bank. You got to make it look good, so the bank gives you the loan. Well, now like put that in football perspective, probably came out and said, hey, this is what we want to do. This is how we're going to do it. Then you go get a kid like APR, and he comes in and he produces. You know what I'm saying? You say, hey, I need you to come. You can come in. We seen what you did at Florida. He comes in Virginia Tech, and he's a star. You know what I'm saying? And not only is he a star on the field, it's like everybody, like he's a legend in Virginia Tech fan eyes. You know what I'm saying? So you can use that story now to sell that to the next recruit on in the transfer. Look at Kyron Drones. He was a Texas kid that was at Baylor. We've heard his story, and then boom, we pull him to Virginia Tech to Blacksburg, and the kid is already being mentioned with, I don't want to put too much expectations on his back, but he's already been mentioned with the likes of Tyrod and Gerard Evans and Hendon Hooker. So hey,
I can't remember the Twitter account, but there was one out there that was dropping the stats for JT Daniels and Kyron Drones, and they were very eerily similar in a lot of those key factors.
It's true.
And so it's kind of crazy seeing like that vision play out for that the coaches presented, because the coaches sold a vision when there wasn't production to back it up. And we finally got some production to back it up.
Right.
Now it's about taking that next step.
But it's also, we've said it how many times, and I think we've said it with, I know you've been on here, Matej, the APR. He came in, he produced. They went and got all those receivers last year. You saw Ollie Jennings that first game blow up, and then he gets hurt. Jay Lane, Quan Felton, great years.
Yeah.
Every guy that stepped foot on the field out of the portal produced. So now
they Shaw Tuden.
I was going to say, can't forget Tuden. Yeah.
Can't forget Tuden. But that whole piece is now, all right, a lot of these guys are going to be leaving. That portal is going to become easier because they're going to walk in. You see our system. You see production. Why aren't you going to come play here? And it's going to get to a point, in my opinion, that there's going to be big names at big schools that they're going to go flaunt. They're going to mess with. And they're going to say, you're going to ride the bench another year over there. You come here, look what we've done. Look what we've done. All right, Sheldon, I know you've got one more you want to talk with here as we wrap it up with Matej Sis tonight. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so this year, 2024, good recruiting class for Pride from a numbers perspective. Class average was around or over 88, which I think, looking up the numbers right now, was the best in sort of the modern era. And I know it's easy in today's day and age, I feel like, to maybe downplay high school recruiting in the age of the transfer portal. But Price talked all the time about how he wants to build this program off the backs of high school recruiting and sort of use the portal to supplement here and there. What is the buzz amongst your colleagues at 24/7 and just the other inside voices about recruiting for this class and just how much anticipation there is?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly thought that last year was kind of the anomaly where, they're taking 16 guys, taking a handful of transfer portal ads. Spaces were limited, not a ton of seniors, not a ton of attrition. I think natural attrition was, right in line with kind of what we expected. But I think, going into 2025, we're actually going to kind of see somewhat similar. Like, I think the day and age of getting 25 kids from high school are just completely done. Like, most programs across the country are not going to take massive classes. I think we'll see something like 18 to 21 range with this class, depending on, available talent, guys that they really like, positions that they want to fill up. But other than that, I think, keep that flexibility to add some guys from the transfer portal is huge. We've seen the success rate so far. So definitely think it's going to be in the same range. And look, like, you look at last year, they have the 47th overall class, and people are like, you're talking about but when you have a class of that size, if they were to continue on, if they are taking more talent, assuming they're 86 and up or 87 and up, then you start creeping into the top 30. So I think if you have a class with higher average recruit talent that's smaller, that if you were to add 8 more guys, you would be in the top 25. I think that's the position you want to be in. It's not about having an overwhelming amount of numbers. It's about having quality, late teens, and then add some transfer portal guys.
So, Matej, you think kind of aiming for that 88 average every year is going to kind of be that goal going forward, trying to keep that average high, regardless of where we're falling on the total numbers, since that does kind of factor in more the number of the recruits.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for as long as I've been doing this, then the goal was always about a top 25 class, a top 30 class. Like that is what was being said. And I think, that's kind of shifted. It's not as important to have those top classes unless you're bringing in 20 plus guys. So I think, it's really important now to fill out your spots with the top guys on your board, guys that you really value highly. And I think that's kind of the approach that they're going to go with. And of course, like, you'd love to have a top 25 class, like who wouldn't? But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. You want to make sure that you have enough room to if whatever happens that season, you need to plug and play some guy, like you need to have room for that.
Yeah, and I guess we're still kind of seeing some of the after effects of the COVID year for a lot of these high schools recruits. So that's probably maybe this is the last cycle, and it kind of starts to go away a little bit heading into 2026. But it seems like this is going to be the last year that's majorly affected by that.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there's like an former Oregon tight end that's like playing his 8th year or something? Is it 9th year? It's 8?
It's 8. It's the kid should.
I hope it's the last year of that, because like it's hard to keep track of.
Well, I mean, I always get it. Like, if people get hurt, yeah, you want to give them that chance, right? But it's like, once you hit year 6, get out. You're just taking up a scholarship spot. Like, go get on with your life. Unless you're trying to get a doctorate and you don't want to pay for it.
Fair enough.
I mean, right? Well, I'm trying to get a doctorate and something crazy and get out of here and make some money, and I don't want to have any debt. So I get that. Brian, Shelton, Tally, y'all got anything else for Matej Sis tonight?
I don't, man. It's been a wonderful time. As always.
Man, Matej, appreciate you coming on as always, man. It's always a blast when you're here. Love talking recruiting, obviously, but you're not just a recruiting guy. You have an all-around knowledge of Virginia Tech and the sport in general, so we really appreciate that.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. I think I'm getting up there with most recurring, maybe, hopefully.
You are fighting Mike McDaniel right now for it. So if you want to sneak one on just to come shoot the shit with us one night, you can pass Mike.
Oh yeah, right. I'll just come on for 5 minutes just to pass Mike.
Just say you can pass Mike. But man, 100%. No, Matej, the thing is, we have you on. Well, obviously we'll look to summer to have you on again once we get in that hotbed of recruiting in July. But it's every time you come on here, you educate us on so many things. I mean, there's so many names now that we're thinking about and the direction of this class is going to go. But the other thing I'll say is this. You're a Virginia Tech alum. You love this program. Like, you love it. We know that. We know from having conversations with you, absolutely love this program. And it shows in your work. It shows in the passion and dedication. And, man, we really appreciate you sort of being our guy at 247 for the last 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
3 years?
Yeah.
It don't seem like 3 years, but it's 3 years, man. Again, it really is. Time flies, man. But we appreciate you always coming on. And tonight with Matej Sis, that wraps up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast, brought to you by Main Street Pharmacy. Curtis Wilson.
Brian Siegler.
Jonathan Talley.
Sheldon Moss.
And with our guest, Matej Sis from 247. Check him out on 247 right now. Are y'all running any specials that you know of?
Not that I know of. Evan will probably kill me for that, but I do not know right now. So I'll check it out.
Go visit VT Scoop for all the specials. Check out Matej's articles on there. Absolutely. We do thank you in visiting our website, boundarycornervt.com. Listen to all of our episodes. Go back and check out last year and what Matej said. He won't lie about 2024. He spoke some truth on this episode. Check out the merchandise shop while you're there. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube account. Always on all your favorite podcast sources. You know them all. As always, we let our buddy Jason Long down in the Roanoke Valley play us in, play us out. Check him on March 16th at the Grandin Village Farmers Market down in Roanoke. He will be there playing live that morning. Check out his website, jasonlongmusic.com, where you can get all of his music, his Apple, his Spotify, his YouTube, and Facebook pages. We thank you all out there for listening tonight. And as always, let's go.
Okies.
Okies.